So I'm just going to go ahead and start building the first model. So we have our categories here that we can select from, the first being object detection, followed by segmentation, and finally by classification. So I'm going to enter into my database. So in here I have my first iris database. This will be our trained data, which we will train the model on. So I'm simply going to select those images and then drop those examples. So the model is now working through those images, and we're going to begin the process by clicking into the first one here. Now we want to label this. So we're going to create a class here, call this one brown, and apply color. Now we simply click and drag to select what we're training. So we're going to train this as category brown. Click back out, and you'll see we have our first categorization. And then I'm just going to go through, create a new class, selecting blue, save class, and again categorizing that iris. And we're just going to go through each one now. Pre-selected brown is fine. Apply that one. So at first it's a relatively slow process, going through and individually assigning your color code to each image. Another blue variant. Tricky variant here. I'm going to say that the majority of this particular iris is brown. You could potentially make an argument for green, but to keep things simple I'll go with brown. Now this one I believe we will class as green. I'm going to go for lime color, green variant, save, and category assign. Brown variant, blue variant, variant, green variant, another green, blue variant enlarged, green variant, another enlarged version of the blue. A bit trickier here, you have to be inside the image. Brown variant, slightly pixelated blue variant, heavily pixelated, and again heavily pixelated, green variant, and that will do. So now we've gone through our data set and we've applied these categories of how we're labeling each one of these iris selections. So the next step is to go ahead, and you'll see at the top here we have train the model. So now the model is going to begin its training process. You'll see all the information associated in this right hand corner: provisioning GPU, configuring your model, training and learning. So this is the nuts and bolts of the process. And then as the model progresses through its training iteration, you'll see the learning curve. It will steeply decline as it makes less and less mistakes and becomes more efficient. So this process can go on for a little while. The data set that we're using is quite small, so it's relatively quick. And it's simply a process of waiting. Getting fairly close to what we want. And that's it. You see the learning curve here represented, and we're going to click Stop Training. A little text box come up, and we will select Stop Training. And this could take a moment to kick in. Re-click, and this little arrow will pop up. Again. And there we have it. So we finally have our results here. Now you'll see the data has been trained quite accurately so far. Come over to this right hand corner and you'll see within the model the confidence threshold here, which is useful. This can be adjusted up and down. In this case we're already at this high level of precision, but as you'll see, the sliding can really vary those results. So I'm going to pop that back to 100% with a 94.4% recall. That's quite good. And then we're just going to go ahead, while I'm at it, I might save this. And we will go ahead now with the model. So I'm just going to nudge this back up to 100% because we want to see these colours accurately presented here. You can see that going higher in this threshold actually just reduces the recall. So we're going to put it back to 100 and run our prediction. Now we're going to go through. So important to note here, we're going into the untrained data set, so irises that the model has not seen before. And we're going to click and drag over our first image, the brown iris, for categorization. And that has been correctly identified and labeled as brown. Next, we will try a blue variation, predicting through the model. And we see the second correct prediction, predicting that this iris is indeed blue. And then lastly, we will attempt a green variant, which tends to be more difficult to detect. So I'm just going to go through and grab a green variant now, place into the model, and running the prediction on our green variant. And we have a correct classification here of green, which is fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and deploy iris data set 1 and create an endpoint endpoint iris1, and then you will arrive here. So we have our endpoint, you have our confidence threshold set, the information that we've used, precision rating, recall percentage, and deployment. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy. This just takes a moment to buffer. And you'll see that the model has been successfully deployed. We have all of our historical data here, which is very helpful. And you have the option to send images to the endpoint and review. Also helpful to get into at a later point.